Throughout the years, Jailbreak has released over 100 vehicles, and 29 of them are pretty unique. They all have something in common, being that they are supercars. Supercars are very popular among the community, and there are 3 different factors that make it unique. The first one is the battle to see which vehicle is faster. 2 is seeing how rare the vehicle is depending on how much days the vehicle was available for. Finally, how much the vehicle actually cost. Now there are a lot of vehicles to go through. We are going to go to the very first vehicle that was introduced all the way to 2024 being the most recent one. Surprisingly, not many people knew this, but the Lamborghini is actually the first ever supercar to be added in the game, costing $100,000 and being revamped only once. This vehicle was released in the second major update for Jailbreak following the beta release on April 29th, 2017. This vehicle is very iconic for the community and it's actually still available till this day. Now, the next supercar actually surprised literally everyone in the community, introducing the Bruley, or formerly named the Bugatti. This vehicle was released on June 4th of 2017 in the jewelry store update, and it is now unobtainable. It is titled to be one of the fastest vehicles in the game, if not the fastest vehicle in the game. But will that last forever? The Bruley is known for having a very high top speed and pretty expensive, costing $500,000, and it was only available for about 3 years until it was retired and replaced by a different supercar that I will talk about later in this video. This introduced the first factor that I talked about at the beginning of the video, being the battle between the speed of different vehicles, and we will get more into that later. Now let's talk about some of the supercars that are kind of forgotten. First one being the Stallion, which was released in the Monster Truck update. It was pretty forgotten just due to the first ever $1 million vehicle that was added to the game being called the Monster Truck. And the Stallion costing pretty cheap, not many people really cared about this vehicle. Now it was actually remodeled on July 3rd of 2020, part of the 5 days of vehicle. And to this day, this vehicle is still forgotten. Another pretty forgotten vehicle is actually the McLaren, or now called the Megalodon. This vehicle was actually pretty backlashed. It had pretty bad performance stats and it costed more than the Stallion. It did receive a buff a few updates later, but it still lost to comparison of the Stallion and the Lamborghini. Now this vehicle did get retired in the year of 2020 in January, but let me know if you still remember this vehicle. A new feature released called Season, and the first ever Season had 2 different vehicles. The first one being called the Arachnid and the second one being called the Torpedo. This vehicle costed $750,000 and you needed to be level 30 as a criminal. The Torpedo for a while actually made the community think that it had the highest top speed in the game. Now since speedometers weren't in the game yet, it was really hard to tell which vehicle was faster. This led to the Bugatti versus the Torpedo battle, and since this was a seasonal vehicle, it never returned, and the only way to get it now is to trade for it. Similar to the Torpedo, this vehicle is also seasonal, called the JB8 or the Audi R8. It was introduced in Season 3 of Jailbreak, and you had to be level 30 as a criminal to obtain this vehicle. Like many seasonal cars, this vehicle is rarely seen in public service just due to how rare it is. Besides just being a supercar, this vehicle doesn't really have anything unique, and it has not been changed since it first released. Next up is the Roadster. This vehicle released in the 2019 winter update, and it was pretty hyped during that time. It had 2 seats and it was one of the fastest supercars during that time. The Roadster has a really fast launch speed and acceleration. To reach top speed for this vehicle, it takes about 7 to 10 seconds, which is the shortest acceleration time for any vehicle in the entire game. It also has one of the slowest reverse speeds just due to it being electric. Also, in a future update, the vehicle did get a remodel to have an interior and a better design overall, and it's still obtainable till this day. Now it's time for the Eclair, or formerly named the Chiron. This is another hypercar in Jailbreak added in the Gun Skins update. This vehicle was actually the replacement for the Bruley that was retired that same day. The vehicle costs $100,000 more than the original Broly, and it spawns right beside the jewelry store, exactly where the Broly was located at in the first place. Now, not many people know this, but the Eclair was actually the first ever vehicle to introduce the first person driving, and it was later implemented on all the other vehicles that were added in the game. And eventually, it did get a revamp on November 7th. A pretty forgotten hypercar is actually called the Cirrus. It was actually introduced in the first ever 5 days of vehicles in 2020, and it replaced the retired SUV and cost $109,000. Now it's time to talk about one of Jailbreak's most iconic limited vehicles ever. The Molten M12 was released, and it was only available for 10 days, costing $600,000, and it was released during the Mountainside revamp update. This vehicle was pretty unique during this time. It was the first ever community made vehicle, and since this was the first ever community vehicle, that means there could be a chance that there could be more, and there was definitely more, but we'll get to that later. Seasons were revamped and released again, this time adding new vehicles every season with 9 other pretty unique cosmetics. First season was released and it was called New Beginnings, and the first ever vehicle was actually a hypercar called the Beam Hybrid. To obtain it, you needed to be level 10, and this time you didn't have to buy it. You just have to reach level 10 and you automatically get it. Now, since this is the first ever season, people were absolutely grinding to get this vehicle. Now it's almost been 5 years since the first season came out for Jailbreak, and the Beam Hybrid is absolutely rare and people are trading a lot for this vehicle now. The next hypercar is the Airtail, and it was released during the March of 2021 during a mid-season update. This vehicle actually replaced another supercar called the Megalodon, and that was the last time we've seen it. It costed about $600,000 until it got retired on January 9th of 2022. Now there was a pretty weird reason of why this vehicle was removed. Asimo gave a few reasons of why this vehicle was removed. One, because the vehicle had poor design and he just didn't like how it looked. 2, this vehicle was underused and not many people used it in public servers. And 3, there were just so many supercars in the game. Now, although he thought that back then, there are a lot of supercars today now. The 5 days of vehicles is finally back once again, and this time, there are a few new supercars released. The Ray 9 was released during the 5 days of vehicles, and it was the second one announced. The Ray 9 costed $200,000 cash, and it's located at the casino today. Now this vehicle isn't really used a lot, it's pretty forgotten, and I forgot that it's literally located at the casino today. Next up is the Torero, the 4th announced vehicle of the 5 days of vehicles event. This vehicle was only available for 9 days and became unobtainable on September 12th of 2021, and it costed $600,000 just like the Molten 12. Now it may be one of the most hyped vehicles in the event, but there's something even bigger releasing on the 5th day of the event, and it's going to be one of Jailbreak's craziest vehicles released during that year. The 5th vehicle was announced and it was called the Concept Car. This vehicle costed $2.5 million cash, and it's basically the expensive vehicle in the game. This vehicle could be found at one of the buildings in Rising City. The concept is known for having a futuristic design and a pretty cool effect when driving. Now the vehicle has 4 seats and it does share a few similarities with the Torero. Next up is another seasonal vehicle. During Season 6, Race to the Top, it released another hypercar vehicle called the Beignet. When reaching level 10, you will automatically get this vehicle, and it has a pretty high value in trading. Now this vehicle is pretty rare due to it being a seasonal vehicle and an old car. Now this vehicle actually has incredible performance, being the 8th fastest vehicle in the game, but there is still a lot of other vehicles that beat it, and we'll get to those vehicles later in this video. On February 11th of 2022, Jailbreak released one of the most craziest collaborations in the game. They had collabed with McLaren F1 and released the MCL36 vehicle, one of Jailbreak's most craziest vehicles yet. It costed about $200,000 or for free during the event. You only kept the vehicle if you bought the paid version, but it was still a very good event nonetheless. Once again, this is another seasonal vehicle. During the Season 10 update, Rich and Famous, there was another hypercar release called the Macron. This vehicle was only obtainable by only reaching level 10, and you automatically obtain it. Now this vehicle actually had little notable features that not many people know about, like the active spoiler, which automatically goes up when the car starts moving, and it goes down when the car stops moving. Now there is one thing the community did like about hypercars, in that they were pretty rare or they were really expensive, but it was due to the amount of days that it was available, which is why they released the Snake. The Snake was another limited time vehicle, and it was released on July 1st of 2022, and it was only available for 11 days, going away on July 11th. This vehicle costed $649,000 cash, and it had a pretty good top speed. But the limited time events did not stop there, since we got back-to-back events with the release of the Javelin. The 5 days of vehicles released during 2022, and it released one of the craziest vehicles during that year. The Javelin being a limited time vehicle released on November 4th of 2022, and it was only available for 48 hours. And it costed almost $1 million cash, being Jailbreak's craziest limited time event yet. The Javelin has the 5th highest top speed of all vehicles, only getting beaten by the Torpedo, Brulee, and another vehicle that I will talk about later. It's time for another seasonal vehicle. Season 14 for the Champions released, and it released with the Proto 8 vehicle. This vehicle was only available by reaching level 10, and you automatically get it. This is another electric vehicle just like the Roadster and the Model 3, and it was released on February 10th, and the season ended on April 4th. For a while, not many supercars were released during the year of 2023, but we did get another seasonal vehicle. Season 17, Exploring Europe, the Power 1 vehicle was released. You can only get it by reaching level 10, and you automatically get it. The Power 1 features one of the most detailed interior and exterior of any vehicle in the game. The vehicle was released on August 4th and left on October 2nd. Not only did Season 17 come out on August 4th, but another limited time event happened on that same day. The Arbiter was a limited time event that only lasted for 7 days, and it costed $900,000, and now it's only available through trading. The vehicle has extremely nice details with the exterior and interior, and it has a pretty unique engine sound when getting in the vehicle. It was time for another 5 Days of Vehicles event. During the year of 2023, Jailbreak released another hypercar on the 3rd day, called the Successor. It can be found at the mansion, and it costed $649,000 cash. Nothing really special. It's still obtainable to this day. The Successor feels just like a supercar. Some people do consider this as a pretty good beginner's vehicle for their first hypercar, but a lot of people debate the Roadster is better. It was time for another limited time event vehicle. The Carbonero was finally released on December 22nd of 2023. And it was only available for 5 days and was gone on December 27th. It costed $800,000, and it was a pretty fast car. This vehicle actually had a little story behind it. The oil rig was released during the December update, and it had an unknown crate at the very top of it. The crate had dropped in the ocean and roamed on the shore. Eventually it opened up, revealing the vehicle. Now it's time to get a little creative. In one of the updates, saves got an update where they can now have vehicles. And in the crime save that costed $100,000, they added the new hypercar called the Venom. This vehicle is only obtainable by rolling the save and getting lucky. This vehicle can be unboxed for your first try, only costing you $100,000 cash, or you can keep on rolling, which can cost you over $1 million cash. Now someday this vehicle will be retired and probably changed to a different one, but for now, this vehicle is just in the save. Now in 2024, there were almost no hypercars besides the Venom vehicle. That was until Badimo posted a teaser. It showed a pretty weird purple effect around it, but not much. That was when they finally released the recent limited time event vehicle, the Scorpion. This is probably one of Jailbreak's biggest limited time events ever. The vehicle costed $2 million and was only on sale for 10 days. This vehicle was found at the Purple Meteor at the mountainside town, and besides it just being a supercar, the reason why this vehicle was absolutely hyped up was because it was the fastest vehicle in the game beating the Javelin, beating the Torpedo, and beating the Brulee very easily. The Scorpion now has one of the best performances in the game, and with all of these unique vehicles coming out throughout the years and the Brulee holding the title of the fastest vehicle in the game, it has now been beaten, with the Scorpion taking the title as the fastest vehicle in Jailbreak history. Thank you for watching.